Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. My name is Deniches and welcome back to DR Survival video. This one today we'll actually talk about things that you probably don't know if you are new to this game, and yeah, we'll talk about that. We will not do any challenge. We will not do any challenge whatsoever. We will not do any combat whatsoever. We're just gonna talk here, talking about this change over here. The change that happened to most of the alcohol-based drinks. And yeah, so first, what is the change, right? Like, Danny, what are you talking about? I think, like, I feel like everything's fine, nothing's changed, but what does change? What did change? Well, the change actually happened on December 2021, which is actually the big update that actually reverts all the NPCs, all the things, like the safe haven is now removed kinda from the world map, although technically, physically speaking, it's still there, but you're just not given the clue of where it is. So yeah. Um, so what happened in that big update is that every alcohol-based drink, it's kind of changed now so that it could no longer have, well, it still cannot at this point, right? It can no longer have the multiple use. What does multiple use mean? You probably ask. Let's take a look over here. For instance, these blowtorch over here. These blowtorch, if you use this one time, you can still use this again, right? There's this green bar. Can you actually see that? There's actually green bar at the side of the blowtorch, right? It indicates the remaining durability, pretty much, or the remaining usage of the blowtorch. So for instance, if you kindle this firewood into fire, as you can see, it doesn't just break, right? There's still 14 uses. Now, why does that matter? Well, back then, before the big update hit, a little bit over a year ago by this point, all of this string over here, this had 5 times use. 5 times, yes, meaning that for every bottle of this, you can use that 5 times with the same amount of effect, meaning that yeah, homemade wine, as you can see, it only reduced by 50. But back then, it is 5 times, and yeah, 5 times 50, that is essentially 250, radiation removal. So you can actually reduce your radiation by 250, which is kind of insane, right? At first, well, not at first, it's actually at the end as well. It actually was quite a nice thing. Um, Meaning that if you have this, for instance, champagne, this is a limited item, right? You can actually get this from the Christmas event. And there is also another one, which is the witch's punch, which you can also get only from the Halloween event, which is kind of the same. As you can see, it reduced by 78. And yeah, because this has 5 times, pretty much 78 times 5, although the stat is kind of changed now, but still, whatever the stat was, it was multiplied by 5, because you can use this thing 5 times. Even vodka, even apple cordial, yes, this also had 5 times use as well. And then moonshine, and then diluted alcohol as well. All of those you can actually like drink 5 times. So if you're like a new player, having this, like for instance diluted alcohol, you can stack this minus 10 times 5, that is minus 50, which actually is a lot already, right? And then for instance apple cordial, that's 32 times 5, that's essentially, what is it, like 160. Although back then, like I said, the stat was changed since then. There's so many patches that changed the stats of every items, but still, it was not that far off. And yeah, it's just multiplied by 5 times. I mean, now the question is, then why did they change that? Why did they nerf so that we can only have one? Um, okay, so for this one though, I think I might actually have the answer, the possibility of the answer, that is, why, right? Why is it now only one use? Like, for instance, I use this champagne drink, it's gone, right? Yeah, it's gone. It's unlike this blowtorch, where you can, use this multiple times, or any other items that has multiple use. But just like that, it just disappear. Now, why is that the question, right? I think I know the question why. It is because having this at 5, meaning that the game will have to save 5 state of your things. Does that make any sense to you? Meaning that, okay, so for instance, this one. In this format, if you would have one champagne, it will only have one state, right? Keep in mind, it will only have one state, which is at full, right? At full. And back then, if you had this, for instance, there will be 5 state for, like 5 states for sure. One which is at the full 5 time use, and then the second state is at 4 time use, and then at the third state is at 3 times use, and then at the fourth state in, with 2 times use remaining, and then at the fifth state at only use of 1 time. So meaning that back then, one of these, every single one of these type, they have 5 state. For instance, 5 state. Like for instance, let's just pick this, and yeah, 5 state. Like this one's probably for the five use, 4 use, 3 use, 2 use, 1 use. Now, why does that matter? Why is that a problem? Well, the thing is that I actually talk about this with the developers as well the other year actually. Um, about the usage, right? Like, why does at certain things it will get, like there's some changes, like hidden mechanics pretty much about the game that probably I'm not gonna tell you guys what that is. But yeah, and their answer is kind of simple. The fact is that, if they kept this at 5 time use, every single object over here that you see, it will have 5 different state, meaning that, yeah, that will actually take up so much space and memory, especially in the server. It becomes the server load, and yeah, that's actually their answer when I ask about durability of things. They just simply answer that, the server is not that big, and it will be difficult to pretty much make slot for every single item, with multiple state. Pretty much that's why they just round everything at, like at certain amounts, right? They just round everything. And that also, I think that also include this kind of stuff over here. So, having this at only 1 time use, they basically remove the other 4 state. You know what I'm saying? Meaning that they don't have to deal with this being the memory in the server, pretty much, so that the server doesn't have to memorize the 5 states of these drinks. They can just remember one, which is the full state. It's either full or you drink and it's gone, right? Pretty much. But back then, there's like 5 state. Like I said, for each of the use, right? They will have 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 time usage, meaning that that's 5 state, and this is only 1 state. Um, so that will reduce the load. Then you probably ask, then if they reduce that, doesn't that mean they will have enough space for other things? Yes, that is actually true. And yeah, what is that? Because of that change, then we can have new stuff, pretty much, like for instance, this thing over here, PKM and Saipuha. This didn't exist back then, and the fact that it exists now, meaning that it will take more space, right? Like I said, the same thing for every durability of the weapon, until certain point. And yeah, like there will be like durability of 100%. Probably you use that only 1 time and then you just store it out. And then there is 99% durability, 98% durability, 97% durability, etc., etc. They will take space, right? They will take the slot for the variants of the weapons, until 50, I believe. And yeah, that means that for every item introduced here, they will actually have to, the developers actually will have to make up space for their server, being the server load, pretty much. they have to, like free some space. Now, where did they get that? Well, obviously it's from things like this. Now they change that so that you can only drink this one time, meaning that they will free up so many space, right, in the server. And for that, the compensation is that we get to see cool stuff over here, cool items, like this one over here as well, Cyber Mitten. The weapons pretty much like the Santa staff, this one, everything that is new pretty much. Over here, let's see here. Yeah, like maybe this means meat over here. This did not exist back then, right? Also, maybe stuff like blowtorch. There's like 15 states pretty much for blowtorch. You have one at full, you have one at 14 uses, and then you can just drop this and then you use this, for instance, and then this one has 13 uses. Now you use two, right? This one only have 14, and then this one has 13, and then there is also 12, 11, 10, 9 until 1, etc., etc., meaning that this single blowtorch actually occupy 15 states. That's a lot, right? So yeah, I feel like it's just for balancing. Of course, yes, you probably can have things like, then it just shouldn't the developers just upgrade their server, so that they have better server, with better capacity to save all this game file, right, in their system. Well, yes, that is actually true. But then again, I feel like, yeah, they did that. They claim, at least the developers actually claim, that they upgraded the server, in the Discord server, in the announcement sections about the game. They did actually upgraded the server, but yeah, I feel like that probably still won't enough to add so many items, right? That has multiple states. So yeah, it's just for, I guess, just for, if you want to get some new stuff, you have to what is it like, simplify the the old stuff, and yeah, this is one of them being sacrificed now that the alcohol can only be used one time. And that's probably why, right? That's just my theory though, which is probably possible because it makes sense, like, the explanation makes sense actually, and that's probably what I believe anyway. Yes, they can just upgrade the server, but then again, upgrading server is not cheap actually. Renting a server itself, for let's say 10 people, right? You have server that can hold 10 people at once. That is actually already expensive. I think I actually googled that. Like, I think for a month you need like $100 or something. And that's like the cheapest one. Like, it only holds for few people. Now, let's see here. There is 172 online people at the moment, and in Russian server, in fact, the numbers can exceed 500 people, meaning that there's just so many people, right? So many people with so many inventory, with, yeah, every inventory has multiple states of them. I feel like that's just too many information that the server has to hold. Oh, excuse me. I just squeaked. I burp myself. Yeah, and also hiccups at the same time. Yeah, like, this is my I guess my theory on why is that like that. Obviously, when this happened the first time, I was mad, just like any other people back then. If you're new, you probably didn't know that, and you just take this as is right now. But back then, these all of these things can actually be used multiple times. In fact, 5 times. And yes, it's actually probably a little bit too overpowered. That's why they probably reduced that as well, just to nerf things a little bit. But they also changed the radiation system anyway, so there's a little bit of balancing here and there that the developers figured out. Um, yeah, like, I was mad at them, and so were so many other people's. But the thing is that, as the time goes on, I eventually realized that, oh yeah, that makes sense actually. Running server, server load is a thing. You don't want the game to be laggy. You don't want to have problems when you're logging in, or sending things from others, or just claiming your things from others as well. I feel like that's something, right? Like, yeah, it's just, yeah, I guess the more things, the server has to carry the more load, the you know the performance of the server gets lowered because of that. So they have to just simplify things, I think. Anyway, so yeah, I think at least if that's not true, then at least that's what I'm thinking. That is actually logical for that. So yeah. Um, Now, what can we deduce from this? Well, that is actually quite obvious. Um, Actually, that makes sense. Okay, so recently in this big update, they also actually reduced the amount of things that you can use. I guess that's also another, like stuff as well, because I believe this one, yeah, this steel pot actually has like 1,000 uses. Now it's only 300. What happened there, right? Right? What happened to the rest of the uses? Well, it makes sense. Now, if you see these 300 uses, yes, meaning that there is actually 300 states or 50, but 300 is like naturally, right? You have the still pot at the 300 uses state, you have still pot at 299 uses state, 298, 97, 96, etc., etc. um yeah, that is just 300 states. And before this, I believe, like I said, it was 1,000 or something, meaning that this specific item has 1,000 state. That is actually insane, right? That's why they reduce the amount. I think that's also another possibility, right? Just to reduce the game having to remember or memorize every single state of the single object, pretty much. And doing that, they can actually, with these changes, like making it a little bit easier. So, for instance, steel pot, they can always reduce the amount of steel needed, reduce the amount of resource, right, for the compensation of the amount of usage of an item, pretty much. So yeah, meaning that in the future we might actually experience the same thing as well. Maybe all this item over here will be reduced even more. Like for instance, this knife. Maybe this knife from 600 now it becomes 300, and then this pot from 300 it becomes, I don't know, like maybe 150 or something, right? That can be a thing actually. So yeah, um, it can actually happen to every single item that has multiple durability, just so that the game doesn't have to memorize that many state, pretty much. So yeah. Anyway, I think that'll be it for this one. There's just a little bit of talk about like why, what happened to the 5 time uses of the wine or the alcohol drink, or that's like my answer for that. I'm not sure if that's the case or not. Obviously the developers are the one that can answer that question, but if you ask me, if I pretend to be the developers, I think that's the reason. This just to reduce the load of the server, so that we can have more cool things, like new items like this, new items like the weapons, pretty much like this one. There's so many things that are new, right? So I feel like by having that, we are able to get introduced into new stuff, pretty much. So yeah, and I think that will be it for this one. I hope you guys enjoyed. Stay so healthy. I will see you again tomorrow with another DR survival video. But until then, see ya.